All right, Rick. Let's start with the future face of the franchise, the current face of the franchise, I should say, for the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis, perhaps the toughest man in football with some of the hits he's taken. He's played pretty well. That last game was certainly a fun one to watch, the last 2 minutes especially. So we'll go through your guys, and then we'll go through my guys. Will Levis, what do you got? What's his grade, first off? Let's start there.
I gave him a B with trending towards an A. And
Okay.
because of the signature win in Miami and what you saw in the fourth quarter and the improbability of Tennessee coming back and winning that game when they were down by 2 scores with 3 minutes left to go in the game. So kudos to Will Levis. Some of the throws he made, no-look throw for the touchdown, the 2-point conversion that was uncovered. But the reason for the B is because he's still making those rookie mistakes. The interception, pick six on a screen, some of the other things that are still kind of rookie bonehead mistakes. But even in the Indianapolis overtime game, there was some good, but there's also some bad. I still want to see him continue to develop as a quarterback in the pocket. He has improved his touch because I didn't think he had any touch coming out of Kentucky, and we talked about that when we were at his pro day last year. But he seems to be the leader of that football team by the energy and he can't take the hits he's taking though, because he's not going. I don't care how Superman you rocked up you look like, those hits are going to eventually start wearing on your body, and he has to learn to be a little bit smarter. I know that is his signature. Sending a message to the rest of that locker room down there that if we're going to go down, we're going to go down swinging. And he sure in the heck is going to go down swinging if he's going to go down. But he is trending up towards an A for me, especially with that signature win down in Miami.
And we should make it clear you don't do pluses or minuses, so that's why he got a straight B.
Yes. I do not do pluses. It's a principle thing with me.
Since it wasn't. You are, if nothing else, a man of principle. Let me ask you to rank the rookie quarterbacks.
CJ. Let's get a little dicey. He's played better than Bryce Young has at this point.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't, he has D-Hop, who's been on fire as of late. But he doesn't have, and he has King Henry in the backfield, which helps, but he is making other players around him better.
That's right. Yep. No, that's right. And there are very few bright spots for the Carolina Panthers right now. And Will Levis, whether you think he, weird for mayonnaise and eat bananas with the peel on or not, that team is buying in and he's playing well. And also goes to show you, not so much Bryce, I'm thinking more like Mac Jones, for example. You may not have every box checked just yet as a rookie quarterback, but it certainly helps when you can throw a ball 4,000 miles an hour and make some of the off-platform throws that he can make where other quarterbacks don't even have a chance of even attempting it with their arm coming off.
No, and sometimes it's a little bit, you don't know where the ball's going.
Right.
But he is making throws that are making difference in games.
Absolutely. And that's all you want. So redraft, he's going in the first round for you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You made fun of me last week when I had him going 7 to the Raiders. The Raiders would drive over to Nashville and pick him up right now if he could play tonight.
If he continues to play the way he played in that fourth quarter.
Yeah. Just got to bottle that up and sell it.
Yeah.
Make a lot of money. All right. Your next graded, next player you're going to grade here. We just talked about him. I can only imagine what the grade's going to be. LaPorta.
A.
Tight end for the Lions. Yeah, he's an A, and he should be an A+, but somebody doesn't give pluses. But whatever.
Because it's a principle thing, and because Debo never stated in the directions when he gives us homework that you can use pluses or minuses. So I refuse to now bend the rules.
Debo, let me ask you, what do you take away from someone who says it's a principle to not use pluses or minuses when passing out grades?
I don't concern myself with those people very often.
It is quite the hill to die on, as they say, Rick. But hey, man, you're monkey, your circus. All right, Sam LaPorta gets an A. I don't think anyone pushed back on that. Another first-round pick, or should have been first-round pick. And in case you're wondering how we came with these names, Debo just picked them out of a hat and then passed them out, and then we're grading them. So there's no rhyme or reason in terms of whether Rick and I want to talk about these players. Although Rick very well may have requested every Detroit Lion. That brings us to our next selection here.
On this podcast, we are neutral to all 32 NFL teams.
That's the disclaimer. Safety Brian Branch, nickelback, actually. Great start to the season. Had that pick 6 in week 1 against Patrick Mahomes. We talk about it all the time. Ran the 4.58 at the combine. Didn't run again at his pro day. And that had everything to do, I would imagine, with why he fell to the second round. Because, again, just like DeJuan Jones, he was in the first round conversation and media-wise for the longest time, and then the 4.58 came out. Because he's a great kid, plays hard, incredibly smart. We know all the things here. But how has his first season been at the 3-quarter poll, Rick?
Yeah, no, well, he had a little setback with an ankle sprain, missed 2 weeks with the ankle sprain, and then came back, didn't look as explosive out of his transition or closing, but over these last 3 or 4 games has looked back to completely healthy. Had a big interception down in New Orleans to help seal the win down there. Great open field tackler. They can use him in multiple spots. I saw him lined up at safety one game and breaking to a post corner route, and the range and his ability to read the quarterback's eyes to get a jump on the throw for another PBU. So he is a difference maker on the defense. He can play man, very aware in zone coverage. He checks every box that you're looking for when you watch his tape. And he should have definitely redrafted, would have been a first round pick.
What grade do you want to give him?
A.
In the redraft that we did a few weeks ago, you had him going to the Steelers, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah, he'd have been a great pick there.
Next up.
And I think, I even thought that at the time that he would have been a great fit in Green Bay as well. Because I think in our mock drafts, we had him projected to Green Bay as well.
All right, next up. Ole Miss wide receiver Jonathan Mingo went 39th overall in the second round to the Carolina Panthers. And we talk about him every week because we talk about Bryce every week. And he struggled at times, and I'm not going to dump on the kid. I have to preface every time I talk about Mingo with that, but he has some room for improvement. Would you agree with that?
Yes, C. I gave him a C. And I thought, even watching this last game, he got open down the field, which is becoming more comfortable with routes. Bryce missed some throws. It should have been touchdown throws to him. But then a slant route and an in-breaking route, both I thought were drops that he needs to come up with, especially with a receiver of that physical stature. He needs to make sure that he can shield the defender away from the ball, and you be the guy to go get the ball. He has a tendency to still let the ball wait till it gets into his body instead of extending and catching. I mean, he had 9 targets, but only 2 catches in this last game. It was a hitch and a bubble screen. So I think he's improving. Looks like he's playing faster than he was earlier in the season when we broke him down, but still needs to be more consistent, especially catching the ball in tight windows. Yeah,
we've talked about him to death at this point. The route running was all over the place. But you've also mentioned that a lot of times when you're a rookie, especially a wide receiver, you're too busy thinking and not playing.
Yes, because you're thinking about the steps, you're thinking about the route concepts instead of, all right, I know it, just go out and get open and catch the ball. Do what you do with the ball in your hands afterwards.
So hopefully he keeps making the moves in the right direction because, he was a game changer for Ole Miss in terms of his athleticism and ability to make plays. Gave him a C. So is you still taking him second round, 39th overall, or probably a little later?
Later. Yeah. I would take in Tank Dell before him.
Yeah, how about that? That's a huge step.
Before him?
Yep.
Yeah, you could probably go through that receivers that you said that there's a lot of receivers that probably would have went before him.
All right, let's look real quick. Let's see what we got here. So first receiver taken, we had those 4 guys go, of course. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Quentin Johnson, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison all went back to back in the first round. The very next wide receiver taken was Mingo. And so I'll read you who goes off the board next, and you can tell me when you'll take Mingo over this player. Jaden Reed for the Packers.
Reed.
Right. Rashee Rice for the Chiefs.
Rice.
Marvin Mims for Denver. He's been up and down. He's done some return stuff.
Mims.
Wow. Tank Dell.
Jalen
Hyatt for the Giants, who's coming on lately.
Hyatt.
Really? You think so? He does provide a deep threat, and that's exactly what you need in Carolina. So, okay, you got me on that one. Ced Tillman, I haven't watched closely with Cedric, so I don't know how often he's used in Cleveland.
He hasn't been. He catches the ball a little bit more consistently than Mingo. Similar type
Yeah.
style, I guess I would say. So 50-50.
Okay. And I'll do two more so I can get to my guy there. Josh Downs, UNC, who's in Indianapolis.
Downs.
And then Michael Wilson out of Stanford, who's actually, we have not talked about him. And Debo, let's do it before the end of the season because he's actually had a really good under the radar season.
Yeah, when he plays.
Okay.
He's hurt all the time.
Maybe he's just saving up.
Okay.
All right. So Michael Wilson or Mingo?
The Mingo, just for principle.
I knew it. All right. Well, the conversation got off to a good start there. But your point is taken. So he would have been not wide receiver 5, but closer probably to wide receiver 10 or 12.
Yes.
In the redraft here. All right. Your last player to grade, rookie second rounder, Tuli Tuipulotu, who has been a lot of fun. We talked to him at the combine, under the radar throughout the process, but he is under the radar no more, it feels like.
No. And he's been on a little bit of a sack drought, but he's still been disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 sacks. I went back and watched the Jets game, and he was on fire against a very porous New York Jets offensive line. Zach Wilson was running around for his life, but he was an A. And then down the stretch here a little bit, they put him over the guard. They stand him up. They put him everywhere, and he's still rushing hard. He just hasn't had the same production, and I just like to see him a little bit more violent at the point. So I could have very easily given him an A. Because he's tailed off just a hair, I put him down to a B. But I would not argue with an A on him.
Second round, 54th overall pick. Looking here at some of the defensive ends, one ahead of him. Let's start there. So Nolan Smith, you're taking Tuli before Nolan.
Yes.
Felix Anudike Uzama, who went to the end of the first round to the Chiefs.
Yes.
Derek Hall went to Seattle 37.
Yes.
B.J. Ojulari is having a great season for Arizona.
Yes.
And he went 41st. So right around that range. Yeah, it's been fun to watch. I'm glad that he's doing as well as he is. I liked him coming out, but
we just didn't know where we're going to line him up, inside or outside.
Right.
You're going to put 20 pounds on him or keep him light and let him rush the edge. That was a lot of the questions going into the draft.
Similarly, Lucas Van Ness went in the first round to the Packers. Would you rather have Tuli or Lucas? Because Lucas isn't having a bad season, but he's not having quite the productive season of Tuli.
No, I think Tuli's a better pass rusher, natural pass rusher.
Okay. 5 rookie second-round picks, and grade those guys. Let's start off with Joey Porter Jr. Went 1 pick ahead of Will Levis at the top of the second round, 32nd overall because the Dolphins were stripped of their first-round pick. And, Rick, as you noted at the time, Joey Porter should be upset for a number of reasons. The biggest one being that he lost out on some money in the 5-year contract potential.
But a positive, they can't put that 5th-year option on him.
And the way he's playing, that's great news for Joey Porter Jr. because he has been a revelation for that Steelers secondary. Didn't play early in the year, played limited snaps, and then they needed him, put him out there, and acted like he was playing at Penn State. And it's been fun to watch. I went back and watched all his targets. And he long, we knew that. He's physical. But you talked about this during the draft process. One of my concerns was that he was so physical downfield that he was going to get flagged all the time. He's had a couple of penalties, maybe 3, I think is what I counted, in coverage. And I can live with that. But he's always at the catch point because he's so long. He's more physical than I thought in terms of making tackles. He's struggled at times with that, but I think he's gotten a little better. I legit think that if there's a redraft, he'd be a top 15 pick.
Yeah, we liked him coming out. He was one of our top corners coming out, and he's carrying on the legacy of his father with the Steelers. And just the energy and effort that he plays with is fun to watch him play.
I gave him an A+. One of the things I did note, and there were some concerns about his change of direction. You can get him on in-breaking routes if you give him a little outside move and beat him inside. And I don't know if that's the end of the world. Everything else he does is really good. But that's just something that I noticed and went back to some of the pre-draft concerns, if you even want to call it that. But everything else, A+ for me. And again, top 15 pick because he comes in right away, presses you up, and is physical throughout the route. All right. Way to go, Joey Porter Jr. Can you play quarterback for the Steelers? That's the next question. All right. Next up, Keion White, another guy that we liked during the draft process. Georgia Tech transfer. Where did he transfer from? He transferred. Oh, Old Dominion. He was Old Dominion transfer. Went to Georgia Tech, and 290. He played as a 5 technique. They line him up all over the place in New England. Out wide, they'll even put him over at 3 technique. He's not as twitchy as I remember, and he flashed in the preseason. We talked about him then. I like the way he's played, but I would like to have seen a little more consistency. Sometimes he can struggle to get up blocks. He made a fantastic tackle in space against the Dolphins. It was a end around. He was playing 9 technique. He stood his ground and then made an open field tackle on Raheem Mostert, I believe, in the backfield for a tackle for loss. Great play, but it just hasn't been there consistently. Now, he can shoot gaps. He can take on double teams and occasionally split them, but it hasn't been the Tuli Tuipulotu type production that we've seen. So I gave him a B.
Little tight. I agree with you there. And I think he is powerful. I still think he's trying to adjust to 5 tech because he was lined up as an end coming out of Georgia Tech. So I think some of that is, and in New England's defense, they really never have, like Judon was made a Pro Bowl because he was a great edge rusher, but none of their inside guys, the last one, maybe Richard Seymour, that played kind of that 5 tech, have really, they play good team defense, but I don't know if that system's built for individual stats, especially for like 5 techs or nose tackles or things like that because of what they asked him to do. But I think he's a good football player.
Also worth noting, when you lose Matthew Judon on one end, that makes your job a lot harder. And Judon's been out he's done.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I that's worth noting as well. So I gave him a B. Again, I like him too. We liked him throughout the process. Nice guy to talk to for sure. Next up, Michael Mayer, 10th, 2nd round pick, 10th player taken in that 2nd round. He is way more athletic than I remember thinking he was in the process. And I didn't think he was a bad athlete, but we didn't talk about him the same way we talked about Dalton Kincaid or even Sam LaPorta, certainly not Kyle Pitts if you go back a few years ago. But he made the top rookie of the week list a few weeks ago, and we talked about how, at least I thought he's a little athletic in space, better than I thought. They line him up all over the place. He's becoming more and more a target of whoever the quarterback is going to be there. It's going to be Aiden O'Connell, it looks like, again this week. I gave him a B+.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think he is a little twitchier than we thought, especially into some of his routes. We knew he was very good in contested situations, can catch the ball. I still don't think he's as dynamic with the ball in his hands after the catch. And I wish he was just a little bit more consistent as a run blocker. Those are probably the concerns I have with him, but I'm not going to argue with your grade because I'm not.
Thank you. All right, next up, Zach Charbonnet. I'm glad Debo put Zach on the list. We talked about him a moment ago. He was drafted ahead of Achane, excuse me. 52nd player taken in the 2nd round, UCLA by way of Michigan. And I remember watching him over last year and not loving him. And I would talk to some West Coast scout about him, and they said, this kid's good. So I went back and watched his snaps this year. And again, God, he's twitchier than I remember. He makes guys miss in the open field, and then he runs over the last person standing if he's in the way. There's no other option there. He's a very patient in the backfield, one cut, and then hits the hole. And by the way, they run a lot of zone up front. That offensive line, and the runs that I watched with Zach at least, have done a consistent job of creating holes for him to run through. And then he gets to the 2nd level, and he's just either juking guys or trading guys that don't get out of his way. I was incredibly impressed with what he's brought to that team, especially with Ken Walker III injured at times, and then that 1-2 punch with on the field together. I gave him a B+.
You are right on there, Mr. Wilson.
You actually sound sincere.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you love him. Go ahead.
Good football player, good running back, very good vision for a big back. He does have ability to make defenders miss. Agree with all that. I would say that he's not nearly as dynamic in space or as a receiver than Walker is, but Walker seems to have injuries all the time. So great 1B type back for Seattle, but not near the dynamic playmaker that Walker can be.
Yep, absolutely. I was just looking at my notes here. He ranks third among rookie running backs in first down runs. He has 29, and those are 31% of his carries. I should probably stop while I'm ahead here, but I thought he was a twitchier Tyler Algier.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
You're still emotional from the Hallmark movie. You can't summon the energy to be yelling and screaming at me. All right, B plus rolls.
It's just getting packed down there for 33 more days.
Oh, and then it's going to volcano up, huh? So second round still feels about the spot you're taking Zach. You're not going to sneak him into the first round.
No.
All right, next up, my last rookie that I'm going to grade, Rashee Rice. And I was not a fan of Rashee during the draft process. And by that, I mean, I didn't think he was going to be a top 50 pick. I had some questions. Just because of the way he played at SMU. I know he ran fast, but he didn't consistently, for me, create separation. And that was one of my concerns down the field. But he was the 55th player taken, second round. And he's outplayed that. And he's outplayed that in part because he's the only show in town on the wide receiver position outside of Travis Kelce. But he's gotten better each and every week. Now, what they do is they throw him the ball in the flat. They throw him the ball in quick screens and say, just go do it. They don't. He can run the routes downfield. And he's gotten some scramble drill passes that he's caught downfield and turned them into touchdowns. But it feels like the game plan with Andy Reid is get the ball in his hands and just let him take over and make it simple. And let me ask you this. Is that easier for a young receiver to do, just run a screen or a flat as opposed to
think. Yeah. Put the ball in your hand, then he's more athletic and twitchier after the catch than I thought he was going to be. But we, on another entity that I work on, we had a guest on that was covers the Kansas City Chiefs. And they said, watch this kid down the stretch because he's going to end up making a difference for the Kansas City Chiefs. And he has gotten better as the season's gone along. I still have little concerns with his drops, although he's catching the ball more consistently. But I think that with Kelce, he may emerge as the next playmaker on the offense if he continues to ascend the way he's ascending.